Plot: Seven in Darkness, 1969. Based on the Leonard Bishop's novel Against Heaven's Hand. 7 blind people are on a plane on their way to a convention for the blind in Seattle. Due to bad weather, the plane crashes and only the 7 blind people survive. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. Or maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular generation. From tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen Viking.
Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast that weathers the storm of ableism and finds its way to a better future, albeit also a darker one. My name is Sky McLeod,
I'm Melissa Becta.
and we are talking about Seven in Darkness today. The
Yes.
classic 1969 made-for-television movie,
Yup.
running at an hour and 17 minutes. How is that right?
Yeah, about an hour, 14 hours, 17. Yeah, that sounds about
Something
right.
a little bit more than a TV special, but a little less than a feature-length film, somewhere in that range.
Fairly short.
Yes, and it was actually, fun fact, the first of ABC's Movie of the Weeks, where
Yeah.
they did like ABC for I think like 5 or 6 years starting in 1969, going until like 75. Every week would make a lower budget movie, which oh my god, they were saying it was like 400,000 they were saying where the movies were made for. I can't even remember. It was something so small. I'm like, was it 400 or 48,000? It must have been 400, but still, I was like, oh my god, that's completely
It's a
baffling.
tiny amount.
I know, it's so
Yeah.
small. But yeah, but I think it was definitely worth more now. I'm like, that's probably like, I can't imagine, any like, I was gonna say Game of Thrones, but even something smaller than that, like one episode would never be. I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, it's so in the 1970s, or well, this is 69. But basically in the 1970s was technically the rise of the TV movie and the TV miniseries, because TV producers finally realized, oh, we have this small box that we can make movies and miniseries for. So
because
it's
movies,
just not just sitcoms.
Right. Well, movies also were like not being syndicated as much for like broadcast, I think was part of it as well. So they were like, to compete, they would make their own movies, which was easier than trying to get the syndication rights for like an in the theater movie. And this was before you could just like own movies. This is before Netflix, where you could just stream a movie.
Well, this was before stations like ABC were bought by Disney, and so ABC is just kind of another extension of Disney. So Disney could just funnel all their stuff onto ABC.
Right.
Basically,
with Disney Plus. This was before Disney Plus.
Well, yeah,
if you could remember
way
a time.
before.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was because ABC was. I was reading that it was kind of like the least funded and like kind of the smaller network of the big four, the only 4 channels you had. So that was part of its kind of competitive advantage, is like the scrappy one.
Right. I'm assuming because two of the major networks, CBS and NBC, started out as radio stations. So they already had a lot of crap they could fall back on.
Yeah, and they knew the FCC
programming and
regulations
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely interesting reading about that time period. It almost feels sort of like. It almost felt like sort of now in a way, like with the streaming platforms, like having such you know, kind of both high quality, but also being made on sort of a lower budget than you would for like the superhero movies, and but still like having like a platform that's like well viewed, and that's kind of more the everyday man, you know, watch it on your computer, which is the new watch it on your TV.
And you're talking about superhero movies. So a lot of superhero TV shows started out as superhero made for TV movies. You can go back, and a lot of them luckily are archived on YouTube, or you can find copies of them. But you superheroes like Captain America, Doctor Strange, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, Batman. I mean, these were all TV movies that were basically used to test audience, to see if the audiences responded well enough to those shows. Yeah. And so and some of the things in the TV movies were changed for the actual TV shows, and some of the things were kept the same. I mean, the lady who played Wonder Woman in the TV movie pilot wasn't Linda Carter. And later, because she was a blonde woman, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but then you have the actual Wonder Woman TV shows. So it's really fun because most of them are bad.
Yeah.
Especially the Captain America one, and I love the Doctor Strange one because Jessica Walter, aka Lucille Bluth, plays the bad guy in that one, and she's hilarious. Amazing. It's great.
That's
it's
really
great,
funny.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
That's really, that's really interesting. I was reading up on like different TV shows, would have like, instead of just having a pilot, they would just do a TV movie, or they would like have a pilot sitting around, I guess, that they weren't sure. I guess it's kind of like now what they do is they just make a movie for a superhero, and then if people go and watch that movie, then they're like, okay, we'll make more of this. So I guess that's kind of the place where they do that now, but they just like make, you know, Ghostbusters or whatever, and then people, if it's a woman directing, you know, then you don't get another chance. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So this did not, I mean, it started a series, which was the movies of the week on ABC, but it didn't actually start a series about 7 people, though actually really 8 blind people who get stranded, which is the plot of this one.
Right, and I must say, now knowing that it's a book, I am so very intrigued and so excited to check out this book.
It is apparently very bad.
God.
It is
really
everything I read was like, this is boring and bad.
Oh no! Well, I might just read it just because.
You could come back if you can muster through it. I don't know if it's available on an audiobook or not.
Oh my god!
I couldn't find anything that confirmed or denied. But it's also called Against Heaven's Hands, which, like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, that implies that heaven should have taken these blind people away, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, 7 in Darkness, at least, even though the number thing's very confusing to me, really bothered me. It was very confusing. But at least it's the amount of people who can't see. So, but theoretically, except for there's actually 8, and then there's, by the end, there's 7, so spoilers. But basically what happens is, very funny that we watched this, just coincidentally the week that we spent an entire week trying to reschedule this podcast recording, and you are also remote again, Lord. Because we are in a storm. There was a giant storm, and us blind people could not find our way to each other, so
exactly. Yeah, we tried to wait it out, but it's not gonna happen. But these blind folks did the impossible.
I know.
And crashed. They crashed on a plane
somewhere in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and they made it to civilization. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yeah,
for this movie from 1969, they made it to civilization.
Or at least they made it to another human being that could see,
who can get them to civilization.
Yeah.
They made it to a sighted person.
And it is very funny because we have this airplane that is heading to Seattle for the Convention for the Blind. So we have you know, that makes sense that there'd be a bunch of blind people on this plane.
But you know what? That's a decent setup. I mean, to get a bunch of blind people on the plane. Well, we're going to a blind convention.
Right. It
as
makes
someone
sense.
who goes to conventions, that totally makes sense.
No, that
Yeah.
part makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the plane crashes and somehow literally all the people, the two pilots, you know, pilot and co-pilot, the stewardess, the
All the flight
dad who is of one of the characters who is sighted, like literally every single sighted person all dies and all the blind people survive. So very
I wouldn't say it doesn't make any sense. I would say it's a coincidence.
improbable.
It's a really improbable coincidence. I mean, it's not improbable for people to die in a plane crash. You could lose the whole flight crew.
The fact that the blind people are the ones who survive actually doesn't really make sense, because a lot of it is trying to navigate to the exits, which they don't do. So it's actually also just incorrect on flight safety, because you want to get out of the plane as soon as possible, which by the end they're like, we got to get out of the plane, but you have like 3 minutes to get out of the plane. So the sighted people would definitely be the most likely to survive, because we would probably get fucked over in that situation. I hope we wouldn't, but
right. But let's just say, for the sake of this movie, the blind folks in this movie are wearing a very, very, very thick set of plot armor.
Yes.
except for a few of them. Very, very heavy sets of plot armor.
Well, 7 of them do, because of the title. So they only had 7, and they had to just give it out to the ones who are blind. And then they were like, "Oh, there's 8. Sorry."
What did you do?
That's, you could tell how much it really confused me. That there's 8 blind people, and then one of them dies. So that's the 7. But anyway,
God, that didn't even like register on my end.
Because we have so many. We have just a bunch of generic white dudes. Like, they look sort of different, but like only sometimes, and like their voices don't sound different enough, and like and half, like 2 of their faces for me, I was like, out of context, I could never figure out which one it is, and I like started to kind of figure out what their names were, but it was just like really, I just kept confusing them. They were all so boring, like white dude faces, and it was very hard to like keep track of them, and that was really, it was just really hard for me, because I kept being like on my fingers being like, okay, good, I have a number, let me count and remember who everyone is, and then I'd be like, wait a second, there's 8 people, and then I kept being like, wait, there's 8 people, why do I think there's 8 people? I'm like, who am I like making 2 characters, like
this is honestly one of the reasons why I watched it twice, is because I had to try and figure out who everyone was, and the second time around it was much easier. And so I think I kind of sort of have a grasp on who most of the people are, but yeah, it was very difficult.
Because I watched it once, and terribly, I also watched it like a couple days before we were supposed to record, until we had to constantly be rescheduling. So I had it way less fresh in my head, but I did just go back before we recorded and watch the first scene on the plane where we're introducing all the characters, and I think that definitely helped, though the farther we get into the plot, the more I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that plot point, so I apologize now. But I did make a cheat sheet of all the different characters if we want to like try to go over them real quickly. I have this cheat sheet, good. And so you can fill in stuff you remember as well. So the first one we have is Alex Swain, I think is, and he is the kind of like self-declared, leader sort of them. Like, he's a mobility trainer, so he kind of like has some authority as a blind person, and then also was a doctor before he went blind, so that comes into play as well. But he's kind of the one who wants to be in charge, and then sort of feels emasculated when when some other guy is like, everyone wants him to be in charge because he fought in Vietnam. We'll get to that guy later.
Right. Well, and he's also one of the first ones to be like, you're all just a bunch of half people.
Yeah, which is like, he's like a secret villain in a way that you're like, what? Come on.
Right. I was like, oh my god, I don't like you.
Yeah, he's like really terrible, and it's just like, you're a blind person too. Like, what the hell? How could you think you're better than them? when you're so obviously the same. It just was so confusing to me. I was just like, it's
Yes.
never been a time where I'm like, I'm better than other blind people. It's like, it's just, I can't even understand. Like, it's truly baffling. So yeah, he's just stupid. And then we have Emily Garth, who's I find to be the most like hard to remember anything about. She hurts her ankle, which I forgot about that part. Everyone has some sort of ailment at some point, or no, not everyone, sorry, all the women do. She kind of she was born blind, and she's just kind of happy all the time. She seems sort of carefree, but then she's also very she also screams right at one point too, and is she's just kind of the most caricature, she's just kind of a ditzy. She's not even ditzy, she's just kind of she lets her emotions get the best of her, I think. Does she? Or I don't know, actually that might be wrong.
She's the singer, that's her big deal.
Oh no, that's not her. This is what I mean.
Deborah, sorry.
Yep.
Emily. Oh right, Emily's the older woman. No, Emily is pretty stable throughout the whole thing. I mean, yes, she's scared and everything, but
you're right.
She's not Christy the pregnant woman, and she's not Deborah the singer, who is young and scared and everything.
She's just not really a character, I think, is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of the mom of the group.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's not the one who's in labor during the movie, so it is ironic that she's the mom.
Right.
But she kind of because she's introduced, we have Larry, who's the next one I have on my list, who is recently went blind. His whole thing is that he's going to see his daughter, and then it's kind of revealed his daughter doesn't want to see him. And she he gets seated next to her and on the plane, because he's recently gone blind, so he's constantly at the beginning we see him trying to sit at all these different seats because he can't see what's going on, because he's just starting to learn how to be a blind person. And the stewardess sits him down next to Emily and is oh, you'll like her, she's a very attractive woman. I was oh my god, this is so inappropriate to do that. That poor Emily just getting this stewardess is just being oh, I don't want to deal with you, go sit next to this attractive woman, you'll like that. And then he's oh, I'm feeling frisky, and I'm oh my god, I hate it so much. Yes. It's so gross,
this whole thing.
But that's Emily, and then they have a conversation about she was born blind, and this is in the first scene that I just rewatched, and he just recently went blind, and so they're discussing which one's better, and they're kind of flirty, and I guess they sort of are flirty until Larry, spoiler alert, dies, and he is the 8th person.
Right.
So
Larry doesn't make it. Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess Emily is just, you're right, she's very sort of kind of level-headed throughout all of it, but then also just kind of, I think, but in the end, isn't she the one who's a little bit pushing Deborah as well, or is it
yes, because in the bridge scene, which is actually probably my favorite scene or part of the movie, Emily is the one who takes Deborah is the one who takes Emily across.
Because is Emily, who's the one we're talking about now, does she get because her ankle gets hurt, but then why is Deborah so freaked out about crossing the bridge?
Deborah's not freaked out about crossing the bridge. I mean, well, yeah, Deborah is scared because everyone is scared. But Emily, God, I'm hoping we're not mixing those two up. But Emily is the one who has the freak out at the bridge, and
so she
Alex
has the freak out. But because I thought Deborah was it's my dad who died, and I'm so sad about it, and so I thought that was part of the freak out for some reason.
That's not Deborah, that's Emily.
No,
because Emily.
This part I know.
I'm getting them mixed up. Okay, yep. I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah, Deborah's the one with the dad, because this I did look up and I made sure that's right.
Cool,
Emily is the boring one that no one remembers anything about, who's flirting with Larry.
Right. So Emily becomes the quote unquote strongest woman of the group, because she's the one who doesn't freak out, and she's the one who
But isn't she kind of like
helps.
passive aggressive towards Deborah, being like, what's wrong with you? Get it together. Like, she's kind of like also kind of rude about it.
I mean, at first, but I don't think she does that throughout the entire movie, because she's the one who helps Deborah across the bridge.
Yeah. But part of why
the
she does
footbridge.
is being like, stop being hysterical, which I'm always like, that's not an effective way to calm someone down. It's just that doesn't work in real life. Like, people do it in movies and they write scripts where that works, but that's never worked in real life ever. So it always bothers me. I'm like, that's not how you calm someone down, by being like, stop it, you're stupid for being upset. And then she's like, you're right, I am being stupid for being upset. It's like, no, that is not what happens. But yeah, but Deborah, for the most part, or sorry, Emily, now I'm doing it too. Emily, for the most part, is like somewhat like just kind of like, we're gonna get through this, level-headed, but she likes Larry, and so she's sad when Larry dies. I think, I don't know, she's really we're having so much trouble keeping track of her, because she really is so unmemorable as a character. She's kind of
I get them mixed up, because it's three blonde white women. The only reason I know Christine is because she's pregnant the whole time, and she's drug around on a stretcher.
Well, because this is the one nice thing about the girls. Like, yes, that Christine is the pregnant one, so you always know she's the one who's pregnant and laying down at all times, so that's easy. Yes. And then you have Deborah, who is a musician, so she's the one who has a guitar most of the time. And I think it's actually Emily who's the one who throws her guitar away, which was was it Emily or was it someone else?
It's Alex.
Okay, never mind.
To get her to cross the bridge, he rips it out of her hand.
So aggressive and stupid and mean, and what the fuck was the reason for that?
Yes, I get that. Like, aggressive, stupid, and mean. I totally understand. However, these people are trying to survive, and they're trying to get across. They're trying to get across this bridge, and they're trying to find civilization.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a Stradivarius, a really expensive violin.
I was gonna say, I don't think they make guitars.
Right? No, they don't. No, I don't think so. A Fender, fine. I don't know. Give me a guitar brand. I don't care if it's a fucking Fender, whatever. That instrument, that thing that does nothing, it will add nothing to, like, the fact you are going to survive. Why the fuck are you lugging it around?
No, because music is survival. You need mental health survival too, and her whole thing is in the scene where he throws the guitar. Her whole thing is like basically literally being suicidal and being like, I'm so upset because her dad. We've done enough talking about her. We can skip ahead. Deborah, her whole story is that her dad is very controlling of her, but also because she's young and a singer, and he controls all of her movements and where she sings, and but she also has she has sort of like a Stockholm syndrome thing about her dad, and she's like, he's the only one who ever loved me or never cared about me, but also I hate him so much because he is truly abusive and horrible and controlling. And we have this in the final scene. I love how it's really the stuff on the airplane and the final scene are really the most memorable stuff, and everything in between is very hard to remember. But he but in the final scene where they have a rickety bridge that they're trying to go over. Deborah's whole thing is she's just like, I don't want to go over the rickety bridge. Like, I just want to go away. My dad is dead because he's sighted, so he died. And I just don't care about anything else anymore, and I would rather just die by the wolves eating me, or just like survive, which like truly could survive for like 2 seconds. So it would be like, you would either starve starting now because there's no real food around, or you would get eaten by a wolf even sooner. So there's just like no reason to stay. Like, it's just truly like, it doesn't, like, you have to be at a certain point you have to be suicidal to be like, I'm going to stay, because one is like, absolutely you will die, and the other is like, maybe you could be safe. So it's really, the choice is just suicide or potentially getting to survive. And she's like, no, I don't want to do it. And so Alex's response is to throw her guitar away, which is the one thing that like actually is giving her emotional like help, and like it's something she actually really loves. And even though her dad was very controlling of her, it seems to be something she does genuinely enjoy doing. You know, and it is genuinely a form of expression for her. So it just feels like truly just like taking and coping, like an actual healthy coping mechanism, like something that would definitely be, I'm just like, when I talk to suicidal people, that guitar could be like the thing keeping you alive. And so the idea that you would just throw it away when there's really, like, she needs to cross a bridge, but the guitar is not necessarily, she could carry it. She doesn't need the guitar, like, she doesn't need it to be gone to cross the bridge. It's not, like, it's not so that she can cross the bridge. It's just, like, because he's, like, mad at, like, it didn't seem very functional to, like, throw the guitar away. He was just like, you're a stupid girl, which she was also being, like, written very badly, because she's just so irrational in that moment that you're like, what? No one would ever be like this. This is just, like, these hysterical women, you know, they be hysterical.
They be hysterical, yeah.
So.
Look, I mean, I'm not trying to justify his actions. I mean, what he did was awful and the completely wrong way to handle that situation.
Definitely.
And I can't come up of a single way to justify what he did. I'm just like, but I guess in that moment, I saw it as an act of pure like frustration and just, you're going to come across this bridge. And I, as someone who really enjoys and reads a fair amount of like survivalist fiction, I really enjoy the whole like person gets shipwrecked. Person has to use whatever supplies they have to build shelter and build a life for themselves, blah 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 blah. I enjoy this type of stuff. So like this movie's right up my alley.
Nice.
But in that moment, in that moment he snaps, and you know, I can't, like I said, I still can't justify why he did it, but in a weird way I kind of understood why he did it. I'm not saying it's
so
right.
Hysterical.
It's not right.
Yeah, the whole thing was like, at that point people were just behaving in ways that were so unfathomable. You were just like, come on guys, like I was just like, you are a bunch of blind people, so you're all like working together, you have to work together to make this happen. And like they'll sometimes, because you know, there are a lot of the movie, they have like this rope, and they're all holding onto the rope, and then like whoever is the most, you know, whatever to lead them is going to be at the top of the, and there's all this talk about what order the rope is going in, but like a lot of it is like working together for a common goal, but at the same time there's like so much weird hierarchical stuff, like there has to be this leader, which I'm also like, why can't everyone just contribute to this? They all have the same mission, and there's so much infighting. It just is so silly to me. I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I kind of understand putting Alex, the major from Vietnam, in charge. Like, honestly, that would
it wasn't Alex. It was Mark is the Vietnam hero.
Mark, I'm sorry. Yeah, not Alex. No. You're right. I understand the inclination to put Mark from Vietnam, like the major, in charge, because honestly, if I were in that situation, that would be my first instinct, because I don't want to be a fucking leader unless I absolutely have to be. And he, like, that's his whole thing. Like, he's been to war. Yes, he apparently or obviously still has PTSD, and it's awful. Like, he, you know, what he suffered, but he is the logical choice.
Yeah,
for
his big secret that the people who are putting him in charge don't know is that he actually instead of leading his troop to safety, which I guess everyone must know that he didn't, but he actually ran away, and so everyone died, and he ran away, and that's the reason why he survived. So he has all this like guilt about it, guilt. And but like in more of a legit way, because he did kind of run away to save himself. So yeah. But like in that moment, in the beginning, before they know all of this, he's still the most logical choice, in my opinion,
to be a leader, and not everybody likes that. And we find out that Alex, especially Alex, doesn't like that decision. But instead of like talking about it like a therapist, supposedly he's a therapist who is
I thought he was just a
helping these
doctor.
blind people.
Oh, right, he's
I read him as therapist. Like, he's
Oh,
the one
because I thought he was a doctor who was then a mobility trainer. I didn't read him as a therapist. But you might be right. You saw it twice.
I think he's. I read it. I think he's a therapist. I read it because he's always talking about you have to finish your therapy, and I just took that as
right.
therapy that he's giving them.
I think you're right, but it's also like he talks about doing mobility training and stuff. So I think he's just using therapy in the broadest definition, but could also involve emotional support. Yeah, I think you're right.
Right. I think this isn't therapy in like what a 2021 definition of therapy would be. Right. This is like therapy that's all encompassing. Like, so when he says I'm blind therapist, I'm leading you through therapy, it's like what you said, it's everything. It is emotional, it is mobility, it is how to function, like it's everything.
Right. And I think you're right, because he does at one point say like you should finish your therapy when it's about something that's like about this much more emotional problem than it is like about using your cane properly.
Right.
So it is kind of
but we find out that Alex is like secretly this super jealous turncoat, and he's apparently been stealing food. I don't know what the fuck he's been doing with it, eating it, I guess, or throwing it away or something.
He must be throwing it away.
Or holding on to it, maybe, so that they would have to depend on him, because he's super jealous that everyone is depending on Mark now, and they're doing what he says and not what Alex says.
Right, so Alex steals the food and then makes it look like it's Sam, who we haven't gotten to yet.
Sam, yeah.
But which is just like, the dumbest plan, just like shooting herself in the foot. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, is he eating it? Or is, because it's like his motive is to blame it on someone else. So, but then when they when Mark realizes it is Alex who's stealing the food, it's not like Alex gives the food back. So it's not like he had it on him, so you have to imagine he either ate it or throw it away.
Right, we never see the food that Alex supposedly stole. In fact, we never see a scene where Alex steals the food. And I'm not saying we necessarily need that scene. Like, it's fine. I get it. I mean, this movie is like, they trimmed so much fat off of everything. It's kind of amazing. Yeah. So we never get that scene. We just have to accept it and go along with it.
I really thought it was going to be
Alex stole the food.
I really thought it was going to be Christy and Roman, the pregnant woman. I was like, she should be the one stealing the food. She needs more food.
Oh, I know,
She's
right?
2 people.
Oh my god. Oh, I know.
Oh, and that's the other thing, is it's technically 9 in darkness, for the record, and one of them is definitely in darkness because she's 9 months pregnant. So she goes into labor during the movie and has the baby. So.
Which, of course, I mean, it's like Chekhov's pregnant woman.
Exactly.
You know, really you introduce a pregnant woman, and it's just, obviously, because Ramona's like, she's not due for another 9 months. So I'm like,
or 9 days?
No,
probably not 9 months. That would mean
not
she's
9 months.
Just conceived.
A couple of weeks. Yeah, sorry. No. It was a couple of weeks that she was due in, and I'm just sitting there going, no, she's gonna have that baby like in the next few scenes, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but enough time that she has to like create a lot of problems by being pregnant the whole time.
Right.
These women. Oh my god. Yeah.
I mean, good on them for like making us, like, she obviously couldn't walk. They tried to make her walk, but that doesn't work. So they make a stretcher for her out of blankets and shit, and then they tie the stretcher to themselves, and then they freaking carry her.
I know.
The entire way. That's incredible.
And then Sam, who we can get to as well, is his whole thing, which I guess he's our last guy to get to, actually. He's like the scapegoat, basically, as we were saying before, but his whole thing, like, first of all, is that he is like constantly trying to get surgery. So that's kind of how he's introduced, as like he is blind but he doesn't want to be, and so he won't like learn how to do anything, or won't learn to use his cane properly, and it's like, I'm gonna get my eyes cured, so that's his character thing. And then he's also like, once they've been stranded, he from the beginning is like, I'm gonna go alone and I'm gonna get help and I'm gonna come back and they're like, wow, you're being so selfish, wanting to go it alone. And sometimes I was like, okay, but then other times I was like, what if he did come and get help and then come back? You know, like
Right.
there's to some extent that is helpful.
I get that, but I think staying together was a better choice, because then you have more hands and more arms and legs, and I wouldn't want to be alone out in the wilderness, especially if I didn't know where the fuck I was. I think that is one of the most terrifying things about this. Isn't the fact that they can't see, it's the fact that no one knows where the fuck they are.
Right.
And you have no bearings, you have no way to find your bearings, to figure out where the hell you're going. It is so, obviously it's a movie, so and luckily this movie had a happy ending, and they found the little boy and his dog and the father. Like, they found civilization. But what if they didn't?
They easily could have not. And like, it was so
yeah.
It is bizarre watching it now too, where I'm like, cell phones.
Oh, I know, right? If this happened now, everybody in there would have a cell phone, and either someone would be able to get reception, or no one would get reception because they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Which, I mean,
but it would be a search for cell phone reception.
Right, exactly, which would be a much less problem thing, unless all their phones got destroyed in the crash or some weird thing like that. But I guess they could run out of batteries. That's something, maybe. But they'd probably be able to, they would be them trying to get reception, but the likelihood of one of them being able to get reception would probably make it so that it would be a pretty short and uneventful movie.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, okay, look, when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you're encountering a puzzle, or your party gets lost, because that can happen all the time. First rule of D&D: never split the party. Don't do it. Because something bad is going to happen.
It's logistically difficult too, because then you have to be intercutting between the two.
Right, because like Sam is just going to go off on his own and whatever, and and I'm just like, no. You get the guide rope, you tie everybody onto the guide rope, and you do it with everybody, or you do it with nobody. Like, it's interesting. Nobody gets left behind.
Yeah, I think because I mean, really, if you have one person going off, then I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm thinking like that person is sacrificing the most, because everyone together could probably put their heads together to figure something out. But like, if Sam's gonna go out and alone, then he's probably, he's really the one risking the most his life. But in the end, they do have like a wolf is trying to get to them, and so there's active danger.
There's always like the wolf calls off in the distance. Yeah. And then in one very pivotal scene, Alex, they either try to throw Alex out of the group, or Alex gets really mad and he's just like, I'm gonna go do it on my own. And he runs off, and of course immediately gets attacked by a wolf.
Yeah, almost to the point that it's not even clear if he even officially said he was leaving, or if it was just all of a sudden. Because I think they're like, Alex, why aren't you responding? And then they're like, oh, he's getting eaten by a wolf. And you're like, how did this happen so quickly? So he has to be rescued from the wolf. So that's part of why they can't just ever stay still, is because the wolf is coming after them. And on top of that, like, granted, they only have so much food, which, like, also I'm just thinking, like, they don't have enough food, period. Like, there's no way they would have enough food, given the fact that they were like, what, I guess they could like get some meals off the plane. Like, how much food could they really have, right? Between them, it's got to be so little. And then if it's getting stolen by someone as well, like, and you have a fucking pregnant woman on top of like 7 other people adults who need to eat, it's just like, I was just like, there's no fucking way they could survive more than like a day and a half. Like, they would have absolutely no food within like 24 hours of being crash landed. There's just, where are they getting the food? It's just, I don't understand. So I mean, maybe, but you wouldn't pack food when you're traveling, like, or you'd pack pretty little. I mean, granted, there was no TSA, so they could probably get away with having more food on them than you can now. But still, I was just
Right.
like, where the fuck is this food coming from? And if it's getting stolen, how is 8 people still being able to feed themselves, including a pregnant woman? It just makes no sense to me. So, but yeah, apparently they don't really deal with them not having enough food. Like they have the fight over Alex stealing the food, but they don't have a scene where no one can eat. Like, that's not addressed.
Right.
So it's almost like it didn't matter that the food was getting stolen. It kind of really felt like it didn't matter, because they were like, why did you steal the food? This was like a weird power play, but it's not like we are now hungry. Like, which was the thing that I was thinking.
I mean, yeah, it's hard, because it's like they weren't, you can say, well, they weren't really necessarily going for realism. So we didn't really see scenes of them like try to forage for food, or scenes. We hear some characters complain of like tired feet because they don't want to walk anymore, or they are really hungry, but that's really never addressed.
Yeah.
In any way.
Yeah, it's weird. I think part of the thing that I got frustrated with is, like, so much of it is the characters fighting with each other in a way that felt so, like, unnecessary and manufactured to me, and just never, the emotional stakes of them always felt so forced. Whereas I'm like, you're in a dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. Why bother with any of this? Like, you can have, like, people who are sort of, slightly disagreeing, and like that's fine, but it's just kind of the least interesting thing you could do with that setup. Like, it's much more interesting to have a team of people trying to figure out, with very little resources or ability to navigate the situation, like all putting their heads together. But instead, it's like mostly they survived each other more than anything. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Which is just ridiculous.
I think the story, it would have been a little bit more compelling if it would have just been them against the wilderness instead of the wilderness and them against themselves.
Right, and then the wilderness just pops in to be like, I'm a wolf.
You're right. I'm the wilderness. I'm Jeff. I mean, we do see, not everybody makes it. Like, Larry bites it.
Yeah.
Because he's just tired of taking orders and tired of being lost. He's angry, and he runs off of the end of a broken trestle and dies. Basically. Right. Falls in the river.
Which is so intense. And then you're like, oh my God. And then you're like, well, I guess that's why it's 7 in darkness, but you're also looking at the time being like, we're like 40 minutes in, so why is it now? Why are we now at the 7 people? This is what I was thinking.
Also, I must say, I'm not a fan of like watching planes crash, but like this was the worst plane crash I've ever seen put to film. And I guess I get it. Like, it's a 1969 TV movie with a shoestring budget, but my goodness.
Like, worst quality, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like, we're going down. Like, everything on the plane was fine, whatever. But then you watch the plane crash, and it's this horrible dark shot.
Yeah.
Shot against trees, and all the trees are in the way, so you see like maybe the front of the plane and nothing else, and you just and I'm like, look, y'all, you should have just had a black screen and just had plane crash sound effects. That would have been so much, that would have been as effective, and we wouldn't have to look at this shitty shot of this plane crashing.
It works for the movie to have it be just black screen, because it's 7 in darkness,
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. It's all shot on like a soundstage, so it's, even though they're like going through the wilderness, it's still pretty. That was the parts that like I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out like where the soundstage started and where the wilderness ended, because I'm just like, okay, they obviously didn't take all these poor actors and just shove them in the wilderness and okay, act blind in the wilderness. That's what they would do now. I mean, look at C. I don't think that was a soundstage.
No, I don't think that's shot on a soundstage at all. No, I'm pretty sure C is actually shot in like North or South Carolina, one of the two.
Yeah.
because that's where a lot of this stuff is shot. Like the Hunger Games is also shot there. Anyway, that's not important. The point is yeah, like there are definitely some shots I can look at them and be like, oh yeah, soundstage. The shots by the river though, and on the train, and at like the train trestle and the bridge, I'm not so sure, because how are you going to fit a river in a soundstage?
Yeah, there's some of it. They also have like a shot of the river that I don't even think has any one in the shot because it's after Larry's fallen and we don't see him anymore.
It's probably just stock footage of a river.
Yeah, that could have been cut. Like it also feels kind of weird. It feels kind of non-continu, like it felt sort of like, oh, is this part of the same set? Like you couldn't fully tell. So, or like, is that actually the same place that we're in? So it seemed like, I was like, oh, maybe they just intercut this shot with, you know, since you don't see Larry in the shot, you just are like, oh, wow, he couldn't survive that. Like it's basically to be like, hey, look, this is not something that he's going to survive. So don't like be thinking he's going to survive. Like that's the point of the shot. So, because I was like, if it's not that like intense, it could just like swim back to the water. Like it has to actually be really treacherous for him to like truly die, because if it is like just kind of, you know, not super ridiculous water, if he could swim, you know, might be able to be fine, but no.
But maybe he doesn't know how to swim.
Well, that could be it as well, but they don't need to establish that because they show us how dangerous the water is.
True. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty good swimmer, and I think I would drown in that river.
Yeah, so, it definitely looks, because I was like, oh, he could totally survive, and then when they do that shot, I was like, okay, well, I guess he can't.
No, no. I mean, what happened is he fell, and there's rocks on the bottom, so he fell. He probably hit a rock or a couple of rocks on the way down. Yeah. And when he fell in the water, and then that current just sucks you down the river. So
yeah. So he's gone. They don't even try to, you know, do a rescue mission, which is probably good. But I was just like, oh, it kind of, I don't know. It was just so like sudden in a way, and it just, I don't know. It was also just, he's such a sad character because he's going to like meet his daughter for her wedding, and we find out that he's estranged and his daughter doesn't want to see him, which is like really sad, and and he's like just recently went blind, and so he's having trouble adjusting to it, and it's just, and his wife died as well, so he's just like a really sad character. Like there's something deeply sad about him, and then he dies like in a terrible way, and it's just like, I was just like, that seems so unfair, like, you know, because he just recently went blind, so he's the least equipped. And part of me was like, they have all these things where except for what's his name, the Roman, who's the husband of the pregnant chick, Christie's,
Ramon.
Ramon. I might
Ramon.
Have, I did a dyslexic thing when I wrote down his name. So he doesn't usually, because he's like with his wife, so he doesn't go off when all the men go off, but like so many of the missions are like the men will go, the women stay put, even though like Emily seems like totally capable. It just doesn't, you know, it's just, it seems so arbitrary. And then at the same time I was like, Larry shouldn't be going on these, he's obviously not able to do it. Like why is it just why is it entirely a gender thing, except for the one guy who has a wife who's gonna be in labor any moment, so he can't go, but the rest of the men will go. It just seems so ridiculous. The gender politics of this is just so it's bad.
Yeah, and I think it is bad, and I think that comes with the time. I mean, it's 69, probably, so we're still, you know, muddy in the muddy waters. Fun fact though, and this is the only one of the few times where I belly laughed like during this movie. So, and we're gonna back it up. So we're on the plane, and they Deborah wants to sing. Yeah. And her dad's like, rah, 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 grumble, grumble, it's your voice, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so she sings and plays the guitar. So it dawned on me that so Airplane is one of my favorite movies. I love it. I love it so much. The comedy Airplane. And it's just, all it is, and I'm not sure have you seen Airplane?
I haven't.
Okay. Oh my God, it's so good. We'll have to watch it together. It's so fantastic. So Airplane is basically a spoof of all of these like disaster movies like
Right.
Airport 77 and Terminal whatever, and this movie Seven in Darkness, because there's a scene in the movie where in Airplane where one of the stewardesses gets out her huge guitar and like plays for all of the passengers while the plane is going down, like because to calm
it's
them
kind
down,
of like a
or to calm them down or
Titanic.
whatever. Kind of like, or the plane is having really bad turbulence or whatever. And
I
I mean,
see, yeah.
it's fantastic. And so this is what Deborah does in the movie, and it was so wonderful to be like, oh my god, they picked this like one thing out of this obscure movie that nobody knows about, and they spoof it in Airplane. It's
That's
so great.
so
Like
funny.
I finally understand that reference. It's fantastic, because a lot of the jokes in Airplane I get, and some of them are just like, it's funny, but I don't understand. Like this is coming from something, but I don't know what it's coming from.
Right.
It's this movie.
That's so great. That's so funny. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
kind of bizarre. It is such a bizarre.
And it's, oh my god, it's great. And the song that she sings in Airplane is even like this weird religious song that doesn't really make any sense, and
it's almost similar to this song. It's just so weirdly like cheery, and that's kind of part of the plot. Is they're like the dad only wanted her to sing fun songs, and she had like very happy, positive songs, but her songs were more gritty. But she doesn't sing those songs. Her dad didn't like that, which I was just like, this is so silly.
Well, and the shot, like in the shot, it's, you don't even see, like, she's moving back and forth, but you clearly don't see the guitar at all. And I'm like, wow, y'all didn't make any effort.
Yeah, that whole scene is shot so weirdly, the way she sings, and like, I don't know what is with that. It's the actress or the framing or something. The way she like goes back and forth is just so bizarre.
Well, everything on the plane is like shot very odd and dark, and it's very dark and it's very close quarters. I think to just indicate like tiny plane, but I don't know.
Her mannerisms are so weird. Like they're the weirdest, and it's even off the plane too. I'm like, what is up with her? She's the weirdest mannerisms.
While she's singing her song though, those mannerisms aren't necessarily weird to me.
Oh, really?
That's like someone who's in the zone. Like she's absolutely enjoying the music. I mean, I can't sit still. If I hear a good song, I will definitely move back and forth, or I'll tap my feet, or whatever, I didn't see anything super weird. I mean, it was funny to watch her do this, but
I don't know what it was. It was something about her
into the music.
It was something about the movement, because that's mostly what I notice is people's movements, is like the way, because of the way my eyes work. Mm-hmm. It was just a weird. It was like, I don't know. I could not figure out what was going on, but if it was the way it was framed or something. But there was just something bizarre about like either the way they had it framed, or like, I don't like, it was just a bizarre movement thing that I didn't like, because I also would move around, and I like when the blind characters move around. A lot of them do in a way that feels a little bit more believable, but she just has very odd mannerisms that I just couldn't fully place. And I was like, this isn't like just how someone's playing a blind character, because it's not like the director is directing that as this is what blind people do, because the different they do have different mannerisms, which is kind of cool to see, like a lot of different manifestations of blindness. And the actors, I don't think, do that bad of a job. Like, I think their performances there's somewhat of a range, like, but they're not super bad about being blind. Like, they don't, use their eyes all that much. I think they're pretty good about not looking at things, and they're not also too stiff either, like, which is good, because that's another thing that like can happen. But yeah, I don't know, there's just some weird thing that I couldn't place it with her, but I think it might have just been the framing. It kind of like just the way that she was sitting. I just couldn't, my brain was not figuring out what was happening. Like it was almost like a weird optical illusion or something. I was just like, what's going on? Like it was just not fully computing in my head for some reason. So I don't know. I don't know what it was. But yeah, the one thing, okay, so this is a thing that really bothered me about the plane. So when they're on the plane, there is a moment where the stewardess is like, it's so weird that we're in a storm. A normal group of people would be so freaked out by the airplane being, all the turbulence and stuff, but they're so calm and and like chill, these blind people. And I was like, what the fuck? Blind people's experience of a plane is turbulence and noises, which are the two things that scare people on a plane. Like, what is like, what the fuck? Vision is not what scares people, like, on a plane. That is not, that is probably the sense least like stressed out. Like, it is entirely it's all what you feel and what you hear. That is what is stressful about plane rides. Blind people are the most attuned to the things that are the most stressful. A turbulent plane would be especially terrifying to blind people. What the fuck? What is happening? Why?
Well, the pilots in the beginning, when they're talking in the cabin and everything, and the stewardess is talking to them, they're just like, they're so creepy. It's just a plane full of people who just stare straight ahead and don't move. It's just like, okay, well, we're not getting off to a very good start, I guess.
Yeah, so offensive and just bizarre. I was like, that's not how blind people behave even. Like, you would not have people who are just not moving. Like,
I mean, yeah, luckily that line and a couple lines of them being half people are the most offensive things in this movie, so it's hooray?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, hooray shrug is about right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's...
Well, I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, but oddly enough, especially after watching it the second time, I mean, it's definitely not a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but I had fun with it. Yeah. I really did. It was just this weird relic of its time, and I've never seen a movie like this, and this definitely goes in the category of please remake this. I think this would be so interesting.
Yeah, it definitely
if it got remade.
It would be, I think, to remake it. I would love to see them more I would love to see them do more collaborating as a team. It'd be more like like people against the wilderness, and I think also making the female characters more real people.
Yeah, they just weren't as developed as the male characters. Like, all the male characters have backstories, and at least we can tell them apart mostly by that. But
yeah. But the women just have, like, womanly things, like a father that controls their every movement, like poor Brittany, or you have
pregnant.
A pregnant person who's gonna give birth at any time, and then you have the one that we truly cannot remember because there's so little about her that we know, or really she just disappears into the woodwork.
She gets Deborah across the bridge,
right? So that's her big.
That's
thing.
Something, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, not great. I guess she's established as being the one that one of the male characters flirts with, so that's helpful as her first scene.
Hurrah!
Woohoo! So yeah, so I think that would be fun to watch something that kind of address those issues with this, and that would be a fun plot. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see a remake of this. It'd be cool. It's definitely something that hasn't been seen or anything, or something that people in Hollywood aren't doing right now.
I guess other than C, which is sort of something. It's not really like this at all, but I mean, technically the one problem is it's very hard to do this story now because of the cell phone problem. So that is the one problem. You would have to really twerk. Oh my god, you would have to tweak the plot a lot to make it make sense with cell phones.
Yeah, I mean, unless all their cell phones were somehow destroyed or something, which would be
ridiculous.
So just a major coincidence. Yeah, it would be ridiculous.
You could have the plane could explode, I guess, and
sure, yeah.
I mean, most people have it in their phones in their pockets, though. So I don't know.
Right. Right. I mean, I gotta say though, I really enjoyed, even though it was like super long and super drawn out, I really enjoyed the bridge scene where they all have to cross the suspension bridge. Yeah. It was very what's the word? Suspenseful.
Yes, because it's more about them having to work together, and it's also like they have to like navigate it with their canes, and one of the canes falls down, and so then they have to guide. Like, it's actually like really good, like, blind stakes in a way that a lot of the movie, there's all this weird interpersonal things, and that creates a drama, and so we don't get to focus as much on, like, it's hard to be a blind person who's stranded. Like, I wished I didn't spend a lot of the movie really empathizing with their situation, and I wished I had, because, like, it wasn't until they were going over the bridge that was, like, one of the main scenes where I was like, whoa, I could, like, see myself being in this situation, and it felt very clear.
They had to memorize where all of the planks were breaking and falling off the bridge, and where the pieces of the bridge were rotted out. Right. And they have to be able to, communicate that to the other members of the group.
Right. And then they also, like, could only do that to some extent because they went over one time, and they were going in, like, groups of 2, so they could remember, like, chronologically when these things happened, but they had no idea, like, once they were over the bridge, the groups over the bridge didn't know the groups coming over the bridge where they were, because they couldn't, like, look to see where they were.
Right, because they couldn't cross. They couldn't cross all at the same time because of the weight that would have been put on the bridge.
Right. Which, that was really, like, that really combined the stakes of it and them having to work together. And some of that was still, like, they added extra drama, like, where I think is it Mark who sabotages, or is it Sam who sabotages Alex? I think it's Sam sabotages Alex, right? Like, he almost makes him fall, and you're like, what? Come on. Why are we doing this?
Well, I guess I didn't really see it as sabotage. I just saw it as, like, they got separated, and Alex got really scared.
Yeah, but Sam, like, actively was like, he made that happen. He didn't tell Alex about one of the obstacles, and then he just, like, went off without him. Like, so he was very purposeful what he did.
Oh, okay.
Which was, I was just like, come on, guys, what the hell? Why would you do, like,
right?
For
stop all this fucking infighting, and let's get across the bridge.
Yeah, it's just so bullshit and unnecessary, and you're just also like, I don't know. I just think if a bunch of people are stranded somewhere, what is the point in fighting? Like, it's just so, it just seems so against what everyone has the same goal. And, like, so to be so antagonistic towards each other, it's just, like, in a way that's like, they started so antagonistic to each other that I was just like, come on. Like, you're in a dangerous situation. Like, no one's trauma bonding here. Like, what the hell? That's not how this works.
Right. Let's get it together and work together and as a team so we all can survive and we all can get out of here. Yeah,
it's just so weird. That was frustrating, and it just made it less fun because you were like, it's bad enough. They're blind. They have to like I was like, I could not. Like, it was the same as that, the scene where Murphy in the dark is, like, stranded. It's just, like, I can so easily see how scary and stressful that is. And I am thinking, like, wow, if I'm in a group of my blind friends, like, this is going to be something that we would be so, like, we'd have to do so much extra work than sighted people do. And I think the movie could have done more of that. But, it was just a lot of creating problems and
problems and plot that we didn't need. I mean, the plot of this movie is already so thin, and that's fine. Like, that's plane crashes with a bunch of blind folks. Blind folks have to find their way out of the woods and get help. That's all the plot you need.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they don't even need to have these weird, tragic backstories where they're lying to themselves. I was like, you don't even need that. They could maybe have different worldviews, but, like, everyone is somehow, like, lying to themselves or has, like, a super extreme, like, they're going into labor at any time, which is, like, not a normal situation that, like, it would just probably be happening.
At least that was the one situation where I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll give you a pass on that.
Yeah.
Because you established that she was pregnant already. So,
right. I didn't think they was unreasonable for that. It just felt like the conceit of this. I was like, it's, they're already in enough, like, it's already difficult enough, and they're going to have, like, it's also like when we watched, like, Blindsight. Like, that's the same plot in some ways of, like, a bunch of blind kids, like, going together. And there's just enough that happens in that scenario that they don't need to start with disadvantages. And they they can like start with struggles that they're going through, but like so many of the characters were also just like actively lying to themselves and other people, and like really were like harboring like very problematic things, and like, you know, were complete like they're basically, all of them were shams. Like all the men were just like complete shams. Like they were completely projecting one thing, and then in reality were exactly the opposite thing, and like had these dark secrets they didn't want anyone to know. And it's like the vast majority of people are not like that. You know, you could have just made them be like complicated, but you didn't need this like such extreme like, I am like the doctor and the person that's supposed to help, but really I think all blind people are, you know, are scum and like only half of humans and they're terrible. And then there's the guy who's like, everyone thinks I'm a Vietnam hero, but I actually like killed my entire like troop of people and it's all my fault they're dead and I ran away. And it's just like, this is so extreme. Like, you just don't need any of this. This is already high stakes situation. You're abandoned. You're all blind. You can't find your way out. Done. That's all you need. You don't really need anything else. But no, we just had these. And so that's why, like, you had, I mean, and I guess, I don't know, I think like 1969 made for TV movie probably was just like you had to have so much drama, I guess.
Well,
like,
it's a melodrama.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's so everything is played to the nth degree, and it's very melodramatic. Every person has to have this like insane, crazy, not necessarily insane, but they have to have this like this sad backstory.
Yeah, which is just, very, I mean, it was nice when it helped me remember which the characters were, because granted, like 7 characters in a short movie, it actually is really hard to keep track of them, especially if you're going to make a whole bunch of like boring ass white people. So, you know,
sure, yeah.
That I think at least helped that their backstories were different, but then all the time I would think it was a different character, and because I couldn't keep them straight, and then I'd be like, oh wait, I thought this guy was the one who did this. So there, like, it took, I had to actually go through and be like, okay, which one had these attributes, and like connect them.
Yes.
I couldn't do that as we were going because I kept getting them mixed up. So
I could tell the women apart better, because they each had different voices, and even though they were all blonde, and they had, you know, obviously they had different backstories too, but for the most part I could tell them apart much easier than the men, because it's just a bunch of men. It's just a bunch of white dudes.
And it's like 3 women, one's pregnant.
So much trouble. Right. We have yeah.
And one's a kid who's like constantly talking about how she makes music and her dad's dead, and that's all of her lines. So you can be like, okay, there's the pregnant one, the dead, right. And then the other one.
Right. And at least we can say this movie had one person of color in it. I mean, Ramon.
Oh yeah.
You know,
the most undeveloped character. I feel like even Christine, at least she has the thing that she's pregnant. He's just so not in the movie at all.
He's just there. He is there for his wife. He is there for Christine. I mean, Ramon, he helps carry her through the entire ordeal.
I know.
So,
and I
like,
really...
Way to go, Ramon.
I definitely thought he was stealing the food. I was so shocked when I was like, it's obviously not Sam, it's Ramon, because his wife is pregnant, and she's probably not getting enough food, so I'm sure he's the one stealing it. Like, to me, I was like, well, obviously. Makes sense. And then I'm like, why would you think it's Sam? And then I was like, Alex? That's truly makes no sense.
Which, okay, if they found out that Ramon was the one stealing all the food, I mean, and giving it to his wife, yes, I would be angry that you've been stealing food, but you're giving it to your wife who is pregnant, who has just had a baby in the woods. I'm going to give you a pass on that.
That's why for me, I was just like, well, it's obviously him, and so why make a big deal out of it? Because you're she probably just needs more food, and like, it's not like you could be all that bad about it. Like, so I was just like, why are we even bothering with this? It seems pointless because we know who it is. It's obvious. And then also at the same time, it's like justified. So it's really, there's not really a point on dwelling. And then I was like, what's happening? Why is it? And we're not dealing with the fact that then the pregnant woman's not getting enough food. Like, it's just so ridiculous to me. Really bother me. But yeah, no, yeah. And but
no, it's silly. It's silly.
And I think even doesn't he Ramon at one point say like, we don't have enough food, she's pregnant, she needs more food? Doesn't that happen, or am I imagining this?
No, I don't think you're imagining it. I'm sure he did.
which is like also fair. So yeah, but I think like it maybe I bet if it was made today with the same, he would be the one stealing the food. Like I feel like the way that it's played in this is just not, you would not see that in a movie made today because it just makes no sense at all. Like that it's some weird like dick measuring contest or something. Like it's just like what the fuck is happening with these people? Like it just makes no sense and there's no justification, and it's literally the reason that Alex steals the food is just to make someone else be like ostracized,
to be an asshole.
Right.
The reason he steals the food is to be an asshole,
and it's like not even because he wants to eat the food. It's just to actively shun another member of the group. But then it's like not gonna work because like once it's revealed that it is Alex, because Mark just figures it out, which I'm also like, how does he figure this out? Why would you blame either of them? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't. And then Mark's like, it's Alex, it's not Sam. You hate Sam. And so you wanted to make Sam be the person to blame it on. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Why would that be the case? And Alex was like, you're right. And I was like, what? He is right? I don't understand what's happening. Oh my God. So yeah, it's
melodrama. It's melodrama. You have each character is very, 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 very defined by their one role, their one note. So Alex is the bad guy, so he has to be the bad guy.
The secretly bad guy is kind of his. Like, I'm the good guy, but then I'm secretly the bad guy kind of character. Right. It's kind of like a Ronald Reagan figure in my head. That's what I compared him to.
Nice.
And then we have like, they're pretty one note. Some of them didn't really get a note. I guess mostly Emily and Ramon were both characters. They were like, do they have a single attribute really? And the women are defined primarily by like men, as always, of course, except for Emily, who's just kind of randomly there, but I guess she's also like, she's friends with Alex, so that's why she's on the plane. I don't know. It's a short movie for developing 8 characters.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem is like, and it's also like you have to do so much plot for the movie. So it's like less than an hour and 20 minutes, and you have 8 characters you got to develop, and you have a bunch of plot points, and you just are not going to have time to make really 3-dimensional characters with that unless you only make a couple of the characters 3-dimensional. And so they kind of don't do that. They just make them all mostly pretty 2-dimensional. So, which is just,
it's crazy because I mean, you have an hour, you've less than an hour and 20 minutes to tell this story. You don't need all this crap. Like,
yeah, you don't need the infighting.
Maybe 1 or 2 lines about who each character is. And then, I mean, they're blind and they crash land and they're trying to get to civilization. Isn't that enough?
Right.
That's
maybe
enough.
Maybe make there be 5 of them, like make it easier on yourself to like not have to develop because you're also like, with every other character, you're also adding like, what are the dynamics between them and every other character? So it's like not just that you have to develop 8 characters, but you also have to develop like, what is it? How many relationships is 8 characters? It's a bunch. I forgot how to do statistics, but it's a lot. Like, because it's like each person is, it's their relationship with the other 7 people. And so like you're kind of like adding on so much plot you have to do with each character. So like at least with 5, you could have like, it would just make it a lot easier to do the dynamics between them as well. So like, I think it's just too many people. You could give it a different title. Be like, are you married to the 7 in darkness?
They come up with a better title. Well, I mean, it's like, this is a made for TV movie. This is not The Seagull. A Chekhov play.
Oh, okay.
There's so many characters in The Seagull, and they all are in relationships with each other, and it's ridiculous. You need a flow chart to read the freaking play. But this is a TV movie made in the 60s. It's not The Seagull.
It could definitely be simplified a lot, and but it is a cool plot. it was very funny. It did make us feel. I don't know about you, but this whole week when we like we couldn't record on Thursday because there was some ice on the ground, and then we were gonna record on Monday, but we couldn't record on Monday because it was I couldn't get back to my house, and there was just like there was actually ice falling from the sky, so
Oh
it was
my
pretty
God.
scary. And so I didn't come home to do that, and then we were supposed to like, do we have another contingency plan? Eventually we were just like,
Well,
let's just
eventually-
reschedule.
Yeah, our contingency plan was we're just going to do it remote because we've tried twice to do this
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's just do it remote.
It's
But
so funny though, because we watched this movie where they're like, they go on a plane, the plane crashes, they get off the plane safe, they survive the plane crash, they have to move through the forest, there's wolves in the forest, they have to like find their entire way, so they don't have bus routes, they don't do it every week, they don't know how to get there.
They have to birth a baby.
They have to birth
They
a
have
baby.
to like give birth to a human life.
They have to then, in the end, they have to find a trestle bridge, which is very hard because they're blind. And then on top of that, they have to go this creaky ass bridge that like a sighted person would be terrified of. And they all have to go, and they're like, one of them is multiple actually of them are like have already suffered injuries during the trip, and so they're like, barely can move, and also they've watched some of them their family die, and then and then they have to like kidnap a dog basically in the end to get help.
Oh, right, the dog. Yeah,
Which is so funny.
They find this dog and they're like, "Is it a wolf?" And Mark is like, "No, it's a dog. I can feel his collar." And then of course this little child comes out of the woods and little boy, little girl, whatever you are, please help us. And of course this child is terrified. There's just like 7 adults. One of them is grabbing onto his dog.
Right.
And
they're all like dirty.
They're totally dirty and disheveled, and they've had it. I mean, they have been through it.
He's like not speaking, and they're like, "Are you there? Are you there?" And then the boy is like, "Get let go of my dog."
And Mark is like, "No, you have to go get your father."
Okay.
So they have this stupid argument. Oh my gosh.
It's so funny. Okay, so also they argue with this kid for a while, and the kid is finally like, "I'm gonna get my dad because you're to tell you off," and he's like, "Yeah, go do that." And and the dad comes, and it's so funny because I was just like, you don't know where you are. Like, this could easily be like, some suburb where there's like fucking gun-toting people who are just having to shoot whoever's randomly there, and then you're holding on to this kid's dog. So, like, you do not know if you could trust this person. And I love how the dad just comes instantly and is like, "Oh my gosh," like he like instantly knows. And I'm like, how would you know? Like, these people have canes so that you can tell they're blind, I guess, but like they're just a bunch of disheveled people who've captured the dog. Like, why is your assumption first like, oh, must be blind people got stranded in the middle of the Pacific Northwest on an airplane crash? It's like almost like he understands what has happened. It's like, this is a completely, just like, there's no fucking way this guy would have any understanding of what had happened. So I think it's so funny that it's like the adult understands. It's like, who would understand what had happened just because a bunch of like people are standing there? Because it's not like they're like, "Hey, we're blind and like we got stranded on a plane." Like, I think he understands before they explain any of that, which is just weird to me. I'm just like, it's still a bizarre situation to have like 7 blind people with a baby who are all just like dirty, and like multiple ones are like hurt, and they're just like standing there, but they also have kidnapped the dog. So like, what the fuck? It's so funny to me.
I mean, briefly, but yeah, I mean, it's I guess I was just, yes, I was laughing at that, about all that, but I was just so excited and happy that they actually found civilization.
Yeah.
Like, they found campers, which means they probably have transportation, and they're either camping at a campsite with multiple families, or he has a wife, and someone who can help, who can just
They
help
probably
these
have a
people.
phone. They probably have a phone.
Yes,
Yeah.
they probably have a phone.
They don't have
Yeah.
911 yet, but they could probably call the ambulance or whatever.
The park rangers or something, wherever they are.
Right. They could help.
I was right. I was just happy that they found civilization.
I was too. It was just funny that they didn't have to explain to this adult. I'm like, there's no way he would just know what happened. Like, they do need to explain what happened. He's like, but he instantly looks at them and he's like, oh my gosh, we'll get you some help. Like, he just has this instant recognition of what has happened. I'm like, how does he know what's happened?
And then credits roll.
Right.
They didn't have time for that. They got to keep moving. They got to keep
right. They're like, what's happened. So it's kind of like how children don't understand that, like, if the child knows something, they don't understand that just because they know something you don't also. No, it's like theory of mind. That's what it's called. Where you think that, like, oh, I know this, so everyone knows this thing that's happened. That's how the brain's. It's like the movie takes that logic. It's like, well, you know what happened with all these people, so this random adult must just know because they're an adult. The kid doesn't know because it's a child, and children don't understand the world, but the adult knows what's going on. It's just like, okay, I don't know, whatever.
There you go. You got it.
But I guess maybe just people have become more hostile. I think probably it's true that, like, now I would just be afraid they were gonna get shot. Like, I literally was like, you could get shot. Like, don't trust that this adult man is like the one more likely to shoot you. Like, you're just randomly trespassing, and you're holding onto the dog and not letting go, which is like who knows where, like, in Oregon you are. You could be in, like, some territory where you probably don't want to be doing shit like that. I don't know. It just seemed to be, like, potentially dangerous for them. But I think that that's probably 2021, sadly. I don't think that was as much of a thing. I mean, there was a lot of bad things going on in '69. Was not the year of great the country, being a wonderful, accepting place. But I think the gun violence stuff was very different back then. So, yeah, that's maybe why he was not. His first thing wasn't like, I'm going to shoot all you guys for kidnapping our dog. But anyway, yeah. So that's Seven in Darkness. I don't know. Do you have other things that you want to talk about the movie before we go to?
I mean, I think we pretty much, I think we pretty much covered it. I surprisingly enjoyed this. We'll probably never read the book that it's based on.
Yeah, no, apparently don't bother, according to the internet. But yeah, it was fun, and I'm glad that we also got to finally record this episode after our own journey.
Yes, no kidding.
This is our little boy moment now.
Except for I didn't kidnap your dog.
Yeah, Samwise, you didn't even come over to my house, so you didn't have the chance to kidnap Samwise. He's just laying on his bed. But it's really funny. But yeah, so do you wanna start with Blindness the Cutie? What are we gonna?
Sure.
I'm gonna give this puppy. Speaking of dogs.
Gee Willikers puppy. I'm probably gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2100.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rating. Because I can't really confirm, but I was looking around on IMDb and looking at the actors and everything, and all these actors are cited.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a bunch of cited actors, I thought they gave fairly convincing performances as blind people. Yeah, but yeah. So 2100. There are definitely parts of the story that I just would get rid of because they don't bring much into the story, and some of the truly 70s era cinematography was driving me crazy, and mostly the just the zoom in on people's faces, and it wasn't necessarily even like a quick zoom, like a 70s quick zoom, like
no.
But they just like whoop, like pull in real tight on someone's face, and I'm like, you could do that in editing, right? I mean, you don't have to, or like they would all of a sudden it would just zoom out, and I'm like, okay, you could do that in editing, right? And then I remembered, oh yeah, it's the 70s. That was a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so have to have to knock off points for that because I didn't enjoy it.
I
But
love that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's a solid 2100, and I'm so glad that some person, and there are multiple uploads of this movie, so I'm so glad that people have uploaded this movie to YouTube, and
Yeah.
now it can be safe and archived
Yeah.
if people want it to be. But I don't know. I always ask, especially with these TV movies, like if I had a bunch of friends who came over, would I put this movie on? Maybe. It's not quite crazy enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me to like Beg, Borrow, and Steal is just insane.
Yeah, it's a lot more just like, whoa, what?
What the hell is happening? Yeah. This one is definitely I can't even say run of the mill because it's not run of the mill, but it's definitely not as crazy. So maybe I might put this on, but I'm not. I don't know. Not exactly sure.
Yeah. I'm actually.
So yeah.
I'm also gonna give it a 2100. Actually, a little bit of
Nice.
synchronicity here. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with everything you said. It's hard. I don't feel as compelled to like put on this movie because I feel like it's not that it's and it's not in a problematic way either. Like it's just kind of doesn't do enough as a movie, and I felt like the stakes were misplaced, and I don't like it's honestly a little bit forgettable because I don't think it like fully, it doesn't have a full thesis, and it feels just kind of like put together, but also at the same time it's not like you would ever remember a scene from this movie and not remember what movie it's from because it's just not really like any other plot ever. So it's very like identifiable. Like it feels like it's mostly it's like very high concept. Like it feels like it's mostly a concept of a movie, and then when you actually get into like the actual movie, it's not that it's not offensive at all. Like so that's why I'm not giving it something close to 2020. It's not like the blind characters are like, they have to do something really hard that like even sighted people would have trouble doing, and so the fact that they struggle doesn't feel like, oh, it's so hard for a blind person to do something that's easy for everyone else to do. It's like it's hard for everyone to do this, but you're adding on extra things because they are blind, and this is really an unideal situation for a blind person. It's kind of like the quarantine, as I was talking about before this episode, where the quarantine has just been basically bad for blind people, and there's not a lot of good things that have come of it for blind people specifically. So it's kind of like that. It's a really bad situation for a blind person being stranded in the middle of the forest. So the stakes of it felt real and didn't feel like they were creating, like, especially something where it's not, because the stakes aren't ableism. It is nature, is this, that's kind of, the villain is not ableism, the villain is nature, but at the same time, it didn't feel forced. Like, it did feel like you were like, yeah, this would be really hard. Like, I don't know what I would do in this situation. I wish maybe more kind of like wait until dark. I think that movie had a similar thing of like, I didn't know what to do, but I felt like every time she came up with something to do, it was like, whoa, like it felt very, like she had a lot of ingenuity, and so it made it feel exciting. And I wish this movie could have done more of that, where you could have more had like, oh yeah, I guess that would work, but that like took a lot of planning and stuff, and like it kind of feels like a chess game, but it felt more like it was just kind of creating problems and then like solving them, and then like sometimes you're like, what are we doing? So it's kind of, it was the first made for TV movie ABC ever did, so it also gets some credit for being like a very rough draft of something.
And, I mean, what a cool opportunity to have, like, the first movie that you do is, I can't say starring, but is about a bunch of disabled people.
Yeah, blind people specifically, which is kind of fun that it was just all blind people too. Yeah. Though, okay, 8 people who are blind, like the likelihood, probably one of them would have no vision at all. I actually saw someone write this online, which is a very good comment, which is like, there's no way that all 8 of those blind people had no vision. Like that is not, that 90% of blind people have some vision. So there's no way.
Even in the description of this movie, it's like, a bunch of 8 visually impaired people, and I'm like, wait a minute, no. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird that no one has any vision at all. Because the stakes are still high if they're like, representative of blind people. You could have like one person who has no vision and all, but I think they didn't want to like really deal with the difference in blindness, but also it turns out no movies really do from doing this podcast long enough. It's not a common thing that movies are interested in doing. Sometimes even documentaries are not that interested in that, even though it is an important thing to a lot of us, because it is something true about blindness. But whatever. They all can't see anything, so that's another thing that's always kind of like, well, okay. But the stakes are very, very high in this movie. So that's what it is, and it's not. It could be a lot more offensive. It's really not too bad. It is. I think it does a decent job at taking the blindness into account. It doesn't really cross any lines that I feel like are into like shitty territory, except for like the Alex thing being like hating all the blind people is just like weird.
Right.
Like the fact that he is blind, I don't know if it makes it worse or better. Like I'm just like, because I mean, yeah, I guess some people think that, and maybe, but it's also like weird that you would have a blind character think that. It feels weird and forced, and also just like you're like, what is? Yeah, just it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, whatever. It's not that bad. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to show it to someone because just like you're like, it's fine. It's not. I'm not racing to, show anyone this movie, but
right,
but it's not offensive. So
no, I definitely wasn't leaving this movie just fist clenched, so angry.
No, it was a lot better than that. Awesome. So that is 7 in Darkness. We're gonna have to have to come back to some dark things. Turns out blindness, a lot of movies have dark in their name, or darkness. If you're doing a movie about blindness, movies about blindness, it's a common theme, it seems. We, next week, are not doing a movie, which is like, whoa, what are we even going to do?
Crazy.
What, I don't know. What are we going to do? It's both of us have talked about this.
We're going to do it. So next week is the first official Citizen White Cane Award.
Yes, the White Canes. Or
the White Canes. Yes, it's the White Canes. And we are going to be looking back on everything that we watched this past year. And we both enjoy the Oscars. So we've come up with a bunch of categories, and we're going to hand out some White Cane Awards next week.
I'm so excited. We're actually going to do 2 parts.
Right, 2 parts.
Yes, so it'll be this next week and the following week, which will be really fun. We're looking back at all the movies we did during 2020. Not some of the ones that we've done in the last couple months, but everything we did from the start of 2020 to the end qualifies for the awards, and we will I think it'll be fun to get to talk about the different things, and even if you haven't actually listened to all the podcasts, if you started in the middle of the year or later on in the year, I think this will be kind of a fun thing to also summarize the different movies, so that if you do want to go back and either listen to the episode or watch the different movies that we talked about, this will be kind of a cool little, it's almost like a clip show without actually, but new content, so it's like better than a clip show. So yeah. So look how cool we are. It's gonna be really cool. We're very cool. And then it's gonna be terrible, but it's gonna be fun.
No,
I'm looking forward to it.
We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
It's gonna be really awesome.
So tune in next week and the following week for that. The second part will be our 50th episode as well.
Woo-hoo!
So that's super exciting.
50 episodes. That's amazing.
No, it's really amazing. I can't even believe it. I'm very excited, and I'm excited for the 50 more episodes we'll do after that as well. And then no more excitement after we reach 100. I'm done. No, I'm just kidding.
We're done.
Hopefully we'll still have we'll still have fun things to watch at that point. I'm always like, we're gonna run out of movies, but I don't think we're actually gonna run out of movies anytime that soon. But yeah, so the last thing we have is what we're blindsided by. So Melissa, do you want to let us know what you've been blindsided by this week?
Oh
or
my
2
gosh.
weeks technically
Yes.
for us.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So mine is actually a book this time around. I have had the joy and absolute pleasure of listening to Our Dogs, Ourselves, the story of a singular bond by Alexandra Horowitz.
Oh.
And she is a dog behavioral scientist who obviously studies dog cognitive behavior.
Oh my gosh.
And so she's always she's written like 3 books about dogs, and I'm not sure if I'm reading them in the correct order, but that doesn't really matter.
I think I've read one of these books.
Oh, okay. You probably have.
Yes.
But her books so far, the ones I have from the library are this one, Our Dogs Ourselves. The other one is On Being a Dog, and the next one is Inside a Dog.
Oh, okay. I think I read one of the final 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she did a really awesome interview on NPR 2 weeks ago, and I caught it, and I was just absolutely fascinated, and I was like, I have to read these books. And she narrates her own books, and she does a really good job. So this book focuses on how our dogs are bonded to us.
Oh.
And so she talks about some of the studies that she's done. She has a chapter that's just like what things people say to their dogs. She has a whole chapter on like the history of dog breeding, which is really fascinating and also terrible, but really fascinating. And she acknowledges that dog breeding is terrible, or inbreeding is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible practice. But she does it with humor and heart, and it's just been an absolute joy to listen to, and it's incredible. And all the books, you can find them anywhere, Audible, Libby, anywhere that has audiobooks. So this one that I'm reading is Our Dogs Ourselves, the story of a singular bond by Alexandra Horowitz, and it's so good.
That is really awesome. It's Inside of a Dog is the one I read. I just looked it up.
Okay, cool.
I think about that book all the time when I think about Samwise. It's like it was a very made a big impression on me. So I should go back and listen to her other 2 books. That's an awesome recommendation and something that I definitely I endorse her work, and so that's really cool. Thank you for that.
No problem. Yeah, she's amazing.
That's it is really, I feel like dog training and stuff is there's a lot of stuff that is not from that perspective. Like I think the stuff she writes about is really cool, and I wish there was more attention to that, because there's so many misconceptions about what stuff about dogs. So I'm sorry, I'm just like saying your
That's okay. No, that's totally fine. I should have figured that you've read at least one of her books. Yeah, no, but exactly, everything you say is totally true, and it's they're chock full of science, but it's written in such a way that it doesn't feel like you're reading a medical journal. Because she loves, she has dogs obviously, and she loves her subjects and her dogs, and she loves learning about dogs, and you can just feel it through every page.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, thank you for reminding me of that book, and that I should check out her other books as well. So my blindsided by this 2 weeks, though it's kind of confusing because we did a rerun a couple weeks ago, but we do these in advance, so the whole schedule's bizarre. But anyway, my recommendation is the TV show on Amazon Prime, Marvelous Miss Maisel, which just got caught up on. The 3rd season is the most recent season, so just finished the 3rd season recently, and it's just a very it's a fun show for, I guess it's pretty, I think a lot of people know the plot of the show, but just to like very quickly recap, it takes place mostly, I mean, the first at least season or 2 are in the 50s, I think, even though it is kind of like, it is Amy Sherman Palladino, who's Gilmore Girls, and so it has that kind of like, you know, there's a lot of fast dialogue, and it centers around a female character who becomes a stand-up in the 50s, and is just about kind of New York City in that era and the stand-up scene and like the sexism in the stand-up scene. To some extent there's a lot of stuff about like, you know, the expectations that are put on a woman, but it's like, it's not as like ham-fisted. It still has a lot of, it's still a lot of the characters have very modern kind of sensibilities in a way too. It's definitely a mixing of those kinds of like era specifics, but it has a lot more of like sort of like in a way the way that they speak, and a lot of the characters they're probably, it is it's not anachronistic, but it's far more now, so there's kind of like, it's kind of a combination of now and then.
It's a story told about the past, but they're looking at it through a modern lens.
Exactly. That is exactly the thing. So, but it's fun because it's like, you know, being like, well, you know, knowing stand-ups having some sort of adjacentness, I don't fucking know, to that world. The one problem is that she improvises so much of her stand-up bits, and I'm like, that's not how stand-up works. You don't just like improvise a whole like well done bit, but you have to do that for the TV show.
Yeah, no, you're right. You are right. I mean, I would argue Robin Williams, but nope, there's no one who's ever going to be like Robin Williams. So yeah, I that's a little
Robin Williams I don't think could improvise very well. So isn't that a thing? I've heard people talk about that.
That was his whole shtick, is most of his like, he would plan out a set, but then he'd get there and like half of the shit he said was improvised. Oh, more than half. He was the improv guy.
Oh, that's weird. I feel like I've heard interviews with like improvisers who's like, he didn't really know how to improvise very well, but maybe that's like from the context of improv. True. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, I guess she probably wouldn't be very good at improv either, because it's all stand-up. I don't know. This is very in the weeds. Sorry to derail the.
That's okay.
But yeah. It's a really fun show. It's also like, I mean, there's a lot of like all of the characters are Jewish, and it is kind of funny because they're like their Jewishness is also like a weird like, you know, modern lens into the past, because they're, you know, they don't speak Yiddish ever, which is kind of weird given the generations that they are, but it has a lot of very playful, like most of the characters are Jewish, so it is kind of fun to watch that and like think about, oh, that would be like my family. So there's an aspect of that as well. So I guess maybe I just have a lot of feels very personally tied to me in different ways. So but yeah, it's fun. And there's also, we have a like just kind of chilled, like very chill and genderqueerness character, Sissy, who just doesn't like, you know, gets quote unquote misgendered, but seems to not mind. And there's kind of she has like a almost fluid or trans identity in some ways, but also it's just like, I don't know, there's kind of a ease of it that is kind of cool to watch, and who knows how accurate that is to the time period either, but it's fun to watch.
I adore Cece. Well, I adore Alex Borstein, but I adore
she's great. Yeah, it's a really fun show, and just 3 seasons all on Amazon Prime, so you know, it's quarantine. Go
might
watch
as well,
it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's Marvelous Miss Maisel, though if they want to do a season during COVID, they're gonna have to get real creative with that, because I don't know how they would explain everyone like wearing masks or something if they wanted to try doing that. I don't know how many shows are actually doing that though. I guess like, didn't Superstore do that for a bit? I haven't seen the new season.
You would be surprised how many shows are actually in production right now, or in some form of production.
Right. But are they like, how much is COVID in the plot, and how much are they just trying to
a shit ton.
Okay.
Some of it is like, this show is just happening, and it's happening during COVID, and we're just going to acknowledge that it's happening during COVID, and people wear masks, and yeah, It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But yeah, Marvelous Miss Maisel's gonna have to really figure something out if they want to do that, because they've passed the Spanish flu, so they're gonna really have to make some reasoning there. But yeah, so that's my pick, Marvelous Miss Maisel, 3 seasons on Amazon Prime. And
Woo-hoo.
I think we did an episode, right? We did it.
I think we did it. Yep,
Yes. Oh my gosh, we've braved so much weather. We didn't have power outages, but there were power outages, so that was something we sort of braved in a way.
Parts of the city are they still don't have power. Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy.
The buses, I think TriMet actually stopped running for the first time ever. Like that, they just grounded all their buses on one day, and they were like, "Yeah, we've never done this before." So it's a weird time to be alive, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But we made it. We were blind and we made it. We made it to the boy with the dog. Our theme song is by Lucia Fasano. Our YouTube channel is Citizen White Cane Podcast. You can turn on closed captions to get little transcripts of the episodes. Our Twitter is White Cane Pod. Our Instagram and our Facebook are both Citizen White Cane, and our email is citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voice message, there's a link in the show notes. Have you ever gotten stranded on in the Northwest, and how did you find your way back home?
Have you ever been tied up in a rope to a bunch of people that you don't like?
Ooh, yeah. And have you been a group of blind people that have had to solve a puzzle together? Maybe like an escape room or something? And like, what is it actually? Actually, we could do this experiment. We could just get it when the pandemic's over, get our blind friends together and do an escape room. We could tell you.
Yes, as someone who's done an escape room as a blind person, I can tell you that it's fucking miserable.
So maybe we won't invite Melissa to this.
No, don't invite me.
That would be kind of fun if we were all blind, because then we could, be interesting.
That would be. I would do it with you.
Yeah, if you
a bunch of blind people. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have also already done this, let us know. Give us some pointers, or maybe invite us to some cool escape room. I'm done with the pandemic apparently, because I was just ignoring that it exists. But this, it will happen eventually. It will stop being there. But yeah, there's a link in the show notes. Leave us a voice message. Tell us what you're gonna do when the pandemic's over. And then you can subscribe to the podcast on whatever platforms, in case you guys don't know about this. You could also give us a review or a rating, would be really great. They don't let you do it by 2,200 or whatever, but 5 stars is also good.
That works.
We'll take it. And come back next week. We're going to do our award show. I'm so excited for it.
Yay!
We'll see you then, or we won't see you then, I guess, technically.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Bye.
Bye.